Hello there. Recently, when looking at photos of Glasgow, those dating to the second half of the 20th century, I've noticed a strange thing. A big sort of tower thing that looks as if it's right in the centre of Glasgow. Looks like a kind of cooling tower that you might see attached to a power station. You can actually see it in a photograph dating to, I think it's 1965. Looking up Queen Street here towards the railway station, you can see the old arched frontage of the railway station. You can actually see it from here, in fact. And behind it you also see that thing. Looks like a cooling tower, and it looks as if it's in the middle of Glasgow. Was there once a power station in the middle of Glasgow? It's time to find out. The Forth Clyde Canal, built towards the end of the 18th century as a major route for the transportation of goods during the Industrial Revolution. And not long after its completion, it was joined with the Monklands Canal so that they could both share water, and it was just a longer route for the movement of goods backwards and forwards. For example, coal from the Coatbridge area to power all the industries in Glasgow. And in this area in particular, at Port Dundas, there were a lot of industries. An old drawing dating to 1827, I think, demonstrates just how heavily industrialised this whole area was. You can see many tall-masted ships and tall warehouses. At that time, the River Clyde wasn't really deep enough to take large ships at different tide situations, and this at Port Dundas was really Glasgow's main port. Fast forward a century, and old maps reveal the true extent of industry in this part of Glasgow. Everything from chemical works to foundries and mills, potteries and clay tobacco pipe manufacturers. This was a major manufacturing hub. The warehouses that we can see just over there, it's a long row of different buildings, probably built at various stages, and I imagine they performed a number of functions. Certainly, when you look at maps dating to the 1930s, a fair whack of that was actually the city's flour mills. Of course, these days, most of that industry has gone, and the canal is now a place of leisure. Although it is hard to feel leisuresome, if that's a word, and if it isn't, I'm making it one. When you're right beside the M8 motorway and the constant drone of traffic that comes from it. Well, hopefully you can hear me above the noise of the motorway. I'll try and use some audio jiggery-pokery to kind of reduce that noise. Not sure how that'll work. I have a bit of a problem with the canals here, and I'll try and explain why that is. Both the Forth Clyde Canal and the Monklands Canal were built in roughly the same sort of period, the 1790s. I think the Monklands Canal was built just a couple of years later. And I think this branch of the canal, leading from the main body of the Forth Clyde Canal to Port Dundas, I think this branch was called the Great Canal. I don't think the whole of the Forth Clyde Canal was called the Great Canal. I'm happy to be corrected on that. And really not long after the canals were built, they were joined together so that they could share water, and it allowed just a bigger route for the movement of goods backwards and forwards. Of the online sources that I've seen, most suggest that that area where the canals were joined, it's called the cut of, or it was referred to as the cut of Junction. It's just an area of land where they're cutting the ground, excavated the land to create a little section of canal that would have been filled with water to join both canals together. Most online sources suggest that that cut of Junction, that little added bit to join the canals, was between a basin on the Monklands Canal close to Glasgow Cathedral and a double basin on the Forth Clyde Canal, or the Great Canal, which was just over there. And the area between those two was excavated. That is a cut of Junction. The issue that I have, and the problem I have, is that in Peter Fleming's map of 1807, he names the section of canal just on the other side of this concrete bridge here. It pictures on this side of that double basin that is said to be the terminus of this part of the Forth Clyde Canal. He names that the Monklands Canal. That's kind of thrown a spanner in the works. You know, that disagrees with what everybody else is saying. Did Peter Fleming get it wrong? Did he make a mistake when he called that section of the canal the Monklands Canal when it was actually part of the Forth Clyde Canal? I don't know. If he's correct, then that perhaps makes me wonder if actually this part here was the cut of Junction and the additional bit to join both canals together. Because this is a wider section of the canal. It kind of looks like a bit of a basin there, and at the other end. I don't know how much this has been footed with in recent times. Port Dundas was actually the other end of this section here. Port Dundas wasn't over there. I mean, these days I think much of the area is referred to as Port Dundas. In 1807, on Peter Fleming's map, Port Dundas was over there. It's now under all the kind of streets and what have you of that area are under the motorway. One of the other issues that I have, if this was the cut of Junction, you know, between just this section here, it's quite a short section. Surely when they were building the canals, they would have just joined them together, you know. It perhaps makes more sense for there to be a longer cut of Junction, meaning that it's a longer section as originally described in other online sources, going from the basin on the Monklands Canal near the cathedral to the double basin over there. I know it sounds very complicated. I'm trying to explain it as best I can. I think one of the main issues that we're dealing with maps dating to the late 18th century, they're not always accurate. You know, who exactly has determined that the cut of Junction was over there and not here? So I'd like to put forward the idea that this was the cut of Junction, that the Monklands Canal ended there, and the Forth Clyde Canal, or the Great Canal, ended at the other end of this stretch of water. And I'd be interested to hear from learned men, or men more learned than me, can't be a lot of yous out there, who would like to chip in, because this has really kind of got me going, as it were. It takes a lot to get us old guys going. This has done it. I may have to look further into this. Anyway, that's the idea. I'll kind of leave it at that. We'll venture further along the canal here, and I've got a surprise in store for you. When all these warehouses and factories existed, the men, the women and the boys and the girls who worked there had to somehow get to and from their work. And most would have used trams. Initially it was horse-drawn trams, but then about 1900 Glasgow's tram system became electrified. And you needed power, you needed electricity to drive all those trams. And that power was generated right there.
Around 1900, Glasgow decided to move away from horse-drawn trams and all that manure and electrify the whole tram network. More upheaval for the people of Glasgow. It was a massive undertaking that not only involved somehow producing all the electricity needed to move all the trams, but also meant somehow fixing miles of steel cable over the city's streets. Today, if you just look up at the city's tenements, you can still see the metal fixings that supported the overhead cable.
So, as I say, a power station was built right there, occupying the corner site on the other side of the water there, and occupying a larger site than the modern structure that's there now. And the power station structure was architecturally far more interesting than that modern structure that sits there now. Substations were built throughout the city in various locations to help distribute that electricity. But of course, Pinkston Power Station is no more. For a while I struggled to locate the huge cooling tower once attached to it. I just couldn't see it on maps, and the reason for that is that the cooling tower itself was constructed in the 1950s. I've managed to stitch together two maps dating to, I think it's the 1960s, that will show you exactly where the cooling tower was. It was located in the part of the double basin of the canal, on one of the basins that was filled in, just over there.
When it was built, Pinkston Power Station was probably the largest power station in Europe. Fuelled by thousands of tons of coal delivered on rail tracks from places like Coatbridge, its chimneys would have spewed out much of the black sooty smoke that darkened many of the city's tenements. But at least the city's workforce were able to reach their work, even if at times they were unable to see their hand in front of their face. Such was the level of smoky smog that at times thickened the very air they breathed.
Well, this is the site of the larger of the two basins that used to be located here, that was filled in, and it was the site of that huge cooling tower attached to Pinkston Power Station. I was hoping to maybe see a bit more than is here. I was perhaps hoping to see a huge circular outline, but it's kind of it's woodland and used by the water sort of leisure centre there for activities for kids, and I'm sure adults as well. So I can't really see anything other than the odd bit of stone on the ground, unless I'm missing it all. And as I perhaps said at the very start of the video, it's incredible the number of times that this cooling tower, it sneaks into photographs of Glasgow dating to the second half of the 20th century. Well, it's not really incredible. It was a massive thing. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb, but it's now gone, you know. But if I head back onto the road and pick up the the canal walkway again. You can, as you wander around at your leisure, you can see little hints of past activities along the banks of the canal. Little stone things, bits of stone with iron hoops in them, used to tie up barges and stuff. And other bits of bit of metal that you can look at and spend quite a bit of time wondering what it was used for. Was it the base of a swing bridge or the base of an old crane? It's a place you can do a lot of wondering in, and as you all know, I am the world's best wanderer. So let's get back onto the canal. Well, hopefully you can see me, although I suspect I'm in silhouette. Where's the lighting engineer when you need them? Well, this whole area is being improved, but I imagine there's more work to be done. Their motorway sits over much of the old Monklands Canal. The trams have gone. And the whole area feels as if it's just a tarted up area of dereliction. But even the new bridge has gone rusty. I'm Eddie Burns. Bye for now.